welcome to...
That was a very forceful entry into this.
welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading the Podcast. My name is Jerrica.
I'm Lia, and we're trying out new beginnings. Last time it
was super sexual. It was like, welcome to the erotic podcast.
And this time it's a sports cast.
Now it's sports cast.
We're gonna see who's gonna win out of the... Maybe we should do that, like duel of the books.
Who's gonna win?
Yeah.
Like of the character?
Have to read like two books and then like pit them against each other.
This one would be very easy. The first book we read wins by miles.
No. Oh, yes.
Miles.
Of course.
So today, everybody, Lia and I are drinking wine. So sorry for all of our incoherence, but it's going to make for a very honest podcast, and we hope you enjoy. We read 2 books.
We did, but we're only going to talk about one, and we'll talk about the next one for next week's episode.
Yes. But they were both romances because we're in a romantic mood. Also, I'm in a mood to know about only 2 characters at a time because my brain is mush.
And I did talk to some of my coworkers about this today, about how romantic comedy books or any kind of romantic books tends to only have 2 characters you have to keep track of, which is the main girl and the main boy, or if it's like main boy, yeah, exactly. And sometimes you have to keep in mind like the threat to the relationship and the best friend. But maximum 4. Like it's rare that you have to keep track of more than 4.
Maybe there's a parent.
Sometimes, or like an ex, or like a
coworker,
a partner they have to leave, or whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, this week we read "Love and Other Words" by Christina Lauren, who I just found out is 2 people. You already knew this.
I knew because I have read many of her books. When I chose this book for this week, I didn't actually realize that she was the writer also for the Beautiful Bastard series. There's like 7 or so books in that one that I've read all of them. Mm-hmm. And she's written many other books that I've read, or they have written many other books that I have read. Not quite like this one, actually.
Well, I read Autobiography, which is more of a YA book. And they do write some YA books as well. So that was the only one out of this writing duo that I'd read, I think. I haven't read the Beautiful Bastard books.
No. They're very tropey. But I
don't mind tropey if it's fun tropey.
Yeah, okay, good.
And I think books can be boring if there's absolutely no tropes in them.
No, it's true. And I actually listened to the Beautiful Bastard series. It's in our apps, either Scribd or Storytel. And the narration is good. And you know how picky I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you love the narrator of this one.
I loved her so much. Erin Mallon.
Erin Mallon. That's
I'm not going to ever forget her name. How weird. Something that that we remember. Yeah. But I really like the narrator of Love and Other Words, Erin Mallon, so much because she does such a fantastic male voice that I don't even realize it's only one narrator.
Because we chose the second book that we're going to talk about for next week's episode based on the fact that she was narrating it.
Yeah.
But I did not honestly like the narration as much of that one because she was only doing the girl voice and not the boy.
Exactly.
And it was kind of annoying me. And the person who did the boy voice is also the name of Harding and after. So I had conflicted feelings. Regardless, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Christina Lauren, who is best friends Christina Hobbs and Lauren Billings.
How cool.
Yeah.
How cool would it be just to write books with your best friend and them to be like a massive bestsellers?
Yeah.
And like that's your job.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's our new job.
Good for you, girls.
We're going to do it.
We're doing it?
Yeah, we're doing it.
Okay.
It's going to be...
I will do all of the section scenes.
And I don't know what I'm going to add to this, but I'll make sure there be no continuity
you have
problems.
Continuity and no errors in spelling and grammar.
Mm-hmm. I'm not so good at grammar, but spelling I'll be okay.
Okay.
We'll see. Keep your eyes peeled and ears out for that. It will be years before we get there, but you heard it here first.
Okay.
Good. Lauren Billings, everyone calls her Lo, which I love.
Cool.
She has a PhD in neuroscience, which...
Crazy.
Wow. Crazy.
Amazing.
And she spent her days doing nerdy research type things, wearing a lab coat and goggles. And then Christina Hobbs, who Lo calls PQ for some reason.
Okay.
She used to spend her days in a junior high school counseling office surrounded by teenagers, and that's probably why
where
she's
she gets
good
all
at
of
writing YA.
Yeah. There's
But
a lot
they're
of
both
personalities you could take from that.
full-time writers at this point.
Now they're full-time writers.
Both of them.
Awesome.
And she is an unapologetic lover of boy bands and glitter, which...
You also. I don't know about
really.
glitter.
I'm not
but
so into boy bands.
What?
Like, I'm more of a... No. You see, my friend Ida, I'm going to do a shout out to Ida here. I've known Ida since I was 8 years old. She's like she was one of those girls that really loved boy bands, and to this day she's still like a massive fan of the Hanson brothers. Which is hysterical, really. But yeah, she went to all of the Hanson. I think she even went to the Hanson like when they came to Sweden fairly recently for like the reunion thing. Yeah, no, it's great. She does all of the boy bands. She's been like she was like the screaming her, at the top of her lungs at the front of the boy band shows. Whereas I liked my boy bands when I was a teenager, but then I got too cool for it, I think. Or I thought I was too cool for it.
I was into Backstreet Boys. I was into Backstreet Boys, and then there was another boy band, like something.
O-Town?
O-Town.
We talked about this.
My brain.
We've been talking about this a lot at home because we watched a new Pixar movie.
Yeah.
The Turning Red, which is a great movie if you haven't watched
cool.
it. Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
And in there's a boy band called Four Town, but there are 5 of them in there, which is hilarious. And yeah. And it's basically reminds me a lot of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all of those. But I was never into it. I like Backstreet. I did not like NSYNC.
I like Backstreet Boys, and I have to say that I was a Nick fan.
Yeah,
and
me
then
too.
he like grew up to be like the abusive.
I know 2 people that slept with Nick Carter.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. And both of them are called Maria, and both of them are blonde and Swedish.
Oh.
So he had a type. But he recorded a lot of...
Not going to be me, because I am very un-Swedish looking.
Like, Backstreet Boys recorded a lot of their albums in Sweden, and they did a lot of their solo things later as well, because they were in, like, the Dennis Pop Max Martin machine.
Okay.
And they wrote music for, like, Britney Spears, for Backstreet Boys, for, like, everyone.
Yeah.
Did you know that the reason, like, Britney Spears Hit Me Baby One More Time, it's about calling someone. It's Hit Me Up. But... The fact that they don't speak English very well, these guys, they just don't care about it. For the rhythm, it's better with "hit me, baby" instead of "hit me up, baby." So they dropped the "up," not realizing that it completely changes the meaning of this whole thing. So yeah, it's about calling. That's why she does all of this in the phone signal
and she
in the video.
followed along with it, being American, not saying like,
But I mean,
P.S. these lyrics don't make sense.
She was given a song. I mean, at that point, I don't think Britney had that much control over what she was allowed to sing. And
I haven't seen any of the documentaries about her, but it sounded like she didn't have much control over anything.
No, and I think, all of that. That's why a lot of the boy band songs, like the Backstreet Boys songs, like why they don't make sense. It's because it's Max Martin and Dennis Pop that wrote them.
They should go to some English language class.
Oh, it's hilarious. Anyways, that's besides the point. We were not talking about boy bands, even though...
But it goes hand in hand with the category of this week. And next week, we are reading romances. And there are very sweet boy bandy boys in both of these books.
So, Love and Other Words, we should look at the... cover, which I can't get up here. Love and Other Words.
It is
seems to be
yellow
in the covers.
I know the one that's yellow, and it has like white banner for
which just says like Love and Other Words, like little notes kind of tied together with string.
Yes.
And then it's also this one with a boy and a girl sitting back to back in a field.
Okay, I didn't see that one before.
No.
I don't think I would have read it if I saw the field one.
No, it's a bit boring, the field one.
It looks boring and also looks childish.
I think I would say the opposite. I think it looks too grown-up-y. I would have been like, ugh.
Okay, that's if I look at the...
That's like a grown-up kind of book, like old people
rekindling.
Yeah, old person fiction. And I will stay young for less than 100 days still, so...
Yeah.
I figured out that my birthday is like 93 days away.
But you're turning 27 again, so...
Yeah, for sure.
That's
right.
done.
So I will never read old person fiction.
We don't need to even consider how old you are.
So good then. Good. I'm happy we agreed on this. So, this book is about a girl.
Yeah?
That I forgot the name of now. What's her name?
I was gonna say Calla, but that's the wrong book. I read too many books in the meantime.
No, it's not Calla. Calla is...
Calla was the Alaskan book, yeah.
Because she's named after the Calla lily, which I really like. But no, this was not... Macy. Macy is her name. That's right.
And Elliot.
This book is about Macy and Elliot. Yeah. And Macy's mom dies when she's young, so she lives with her dad. And before her mom died, she died of cancer. She left like a long list of...
oh, cool.
Yeah.
When I heard about that, when I read this, I would do the same thing. Yeah. All the lists, like numbered lists, like number 1, this.
And like when she falls in love, when she gets her first period, when this happens, and like what to do. And one point on on that list is the first time when she comes home from school too tired to answer basic questions, take her away for the weekend. Yeah. And her dad takes this very literal and actually buys them like a weekend getaway cottage. Like they live in San Francisco or like Berkeley, and they get a cottage in a smaller town, I think north of there.
But how brilliant. What a good dad he was. Such a good dad.
Duncan, he's Sorensen. He's supposed to be Danish, which I take offense with the fact that his first name was Duncan because there is no fucking way. I'm sorry. There's no Danish people called Duncan. No. And he's supposed to have like an accent. And I also take offense with the fact that he likes Danish cigarettes because, again, not a fucking thing. Unless I am, like, completely off base here. But, you know, there's no such thing as Swedish cigarettes. Like, it's all Marlboro and all the regular freaking brands here. Like, there's no Swedish ones.
But I would say snus is kind of...
Snus would have been a thing. Yeah. But Danish cigarettes? Like what?
Never heard of it. No. Also, I'm Canadian, so what the fuck do I know?
I mean, I'm Swedish, so I don't fucking know anything about it. Unless we're talking about, like, weed and stuff. But then I would not refer to that as Danish cigarettes. So.
But is he He's Danish.
Yeah,
he's not
they
Dutch.
Keep saying Danish cigarettes and stuff. Yeah.
Because they reference his height. They reference his height, and I thought that they meant that he was Dutch, like he's super tall Dutch.
Her name is Sorensen, which would be a Danish name. Okay, like this is fine. But Duncan and the brother is Kenneth or Kent, and this I can get behind. Yeah. My grandmother's name was Kenneth, so this is Scandinavian
the names
enough.
match. Okay,
but Duncan is not a name that would be given to a Danish person.
Okay,
I mean maybe, but it would be a weird name in Denmark. Anyways, so they buy this house, and next door to this house lives this family with 4 boys. And one of them is close in age to Macy. He's about a year older. Or they're the same age, but he's older than her. Yeah. But they're about to graduate high school and stuff at the same time.
Yeah, but they don't go to the same school because this is just her weekend house. And they meet each other when they're 13 years old. Yeah. And this book goes back and forth in time, so... Yeah. It follows them becoming friends at 13 from their love of books and other nerdy things. And this is where the word stuff comes in, which I actually liked that tie-in that the book's name had meaning to the story.
But because they keep asking each other what's your favorite word, and then they have to come up with a word. I don't know. I find these things to be cutesy, but in a way unrealistic, because I don't know anyone who has like a cutesy thing like that they do with their friends. And it seems to be too advanced for 13 to be like, what's your favorite word? And then stick with this, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just cynical. Yeah. But it got annoying to me throughout this book. Did? That they kept bringing like, what's your favorite word? And then they saying all these words. And I was like, no. So she has this list. She's met Elliot. They become friends. They hang out at her house all the time because she has this big closet that's great for reading in. Which I was wondering if there's any windows in this closet, or if it's just like a really dark room, because dark rooms I not tend to be that great for reading in. But what do I know?
Privacy,
anyways, they make it into like this little library, and he keeps bringing her books, and they talk about books, and they're like hang out all the time when she's there, basically. So all through summer, all through breaks, and on weekends when they will go up to their weekend home. And then at some point they start developing more romantic feelings towards each other, and she gets all annoyed that he's kissed someone else, like this Emma girl that's a friend of his. I
also was annoyed. I also didn't want him to kiss Emma. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, fair enough. But she's very slow moving in a way, Macy. Like she takes it very slow with everything. So. Yeah. She really does not want to rush it. And Elliot, in a way, like he has a
grown
life
boy now.
outside of hanging out with her on the weekends. So
And she
obviously
doesn't so
he's like
much.
experimenting a little bit. And
he, like, boys, stuff happens faster with boys too, generally. But as soon as they hit puberty, I suppose, then they become little horny monsters. Though they're like coming up to 18 years old, and that is very old.
yeah. And there was a couple of like continuity things that I kept catching, like when they kiss, she says he's 17, and then like the next time we go back, he's almost 17. So apparently he ages backwards. Which is
I didn't pick that up.
and so it goes back and forth in time. So basically, when we first meet Elliot, Macy hasn't seen him in 11 years.
Yeah.
And it like takes literally the whole book to figure out why. Because she won't share. And she's so slow at talking to him about this. Like, she's so kind of, she holds everything so close. And he's immediately, like, when he sees her, he's like, Macy, what the fuck? Why haven't you called? Why did you leave me? Why have you not? And then, I need to see you again. And then he basically goes home, dumps his girlfriend immediately like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, you are the love of my life. We need to be together. She's like, hey, I'm getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, that was happening.
And then they try to be friends, and he goes like this picnic thing with her, and there he meets like her friends from growing up for the first time. And there was another little continuity thing here, because she goes like, at the picnic, she says that Elliot only knows her friends through the peak of high school drama, and then later on she goes like, she was friends with her friends in high school because they didn't care for drama and stayed clear of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, which is it? Is it drama or is it no drama? Whatever. It's just a small thing. But it bugs me. Continuity stuff bugs me.
Yeah.
It's continuity.
I can't believe you even found those. They're so small things.
Yeah.
And
I pay attention.
that's excellent, because
Yeah.
I do not have the brain for attention these days, so it was more like big picture stuff for me.
You're like, this is great. He's saying words.
Wow, words, love, romance.
But anyways, then he figures out when he's like 17 or almost 17 that she has never kissed anyone. And he's like, you should kiss me. And she's like, all right. And then she kisses him. And then she basically ignores that for the rest of the summer. And he's like all frustrated because he's in love with her.
Yeah.
And then he's like, towards the end of the summer, he's like, come on, we should be together. I love you. Like, he doesn't say I love you. He says, we're so good together. We should make this like a more official. And why are you not like wanting to kiss me again? And all I can think about is you. And then she's like, well, I can think about you like that too. But she's so slow. And then they decide to be together. And then they have like this long distance kind of relationship over the fall term there. And it's like their last year of high school. They're choosing colleges so they can be together when they graduate. And they're thinking that this long distance thing is just going to be for like that year kind of thing. And then at New Year, she's at this event with her father. And,
Yeah, in the past.
Yeah, and she gets a call from Elliot, and he's super freaking drunk.
Yeah.
And he says, "Come, I really want to see you. I love you. I want to marry you. You should
will
come."
you marry me?
And like very like super drunk and she's like, "Oh my god, I don't think I can. Like my dad won't let me drive." Like at New Year's at night kind of thing. And then her dad lets her take the car and lets her go up there. So she goes up there, and when she gets there, his friends are all like,
don't go upstairs.
Don't go upstairs.
Yeah.
And
but his other friend is an ass, and his other friend is like, oh yeah, last door on the right, go for it.
And this other friend goes like, he would not have done this, it's not him, blah blah blah. And then she goes up and she finds him naked with Emma like naked wrapped on top of him kind of thing. And she's crushed, and she goes back to her vacation home and
calls her dad.
And no, she doesn't call her dad. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And then this is like the breaking point, and she won't see him again for 11 years from this point. And then in the present, they keep seeing each other. They go to like the picnic where they meet each other's friend, and she starts to realize that this is the first time she's seen her fiance, Sean. I think his name is Sean. Yeah. He's an artist. With her friends, and he doesn't engage with them, like he's only with his daughter. And slowly she starts to realize that his true love is his daughter. He's already found her, and that they're just together because she doesn't want Sirius. She's afraid of Sirius. She's afraid of like attachment of getting hurt, and it's just easy being with Sean because it's kind of friends, and she doesn't even have to have a real life, and his daughter's like
and
real
he's
part
like
in his
mature and got his shit
life,
together,
but he's not
stable.
like head over heels in love with her, and she's not head over heels in love with him. But
they
they
have
like
good
each
sex
other enough,
and
and the attraction
mutual.
is there, and she gets along with his daughter, but she's not really like honestly having that great of a engagement or commitment with his daughter either. So
yeah,
it's
no,
kind of like just
she's a doctor now, so
Yeah.
she's working.
she works like crazy hours.
Like crazy
Yeah.
hours. And so she's just having like a relationship that's convenient
Yeah.
because he's not super attached to her either. He's still in love with his ex, who ended up becoming an addict
Yeah, a drug addict.
and leaving the family because he has his kid. How old is his child?
She's like fairly young, like 6 or 7.
6
I
or
think.
7. Okay.
And then she eventually they break up. She's seen Elliot a few times, just kind of catch up. It's hard for them to be friends because she's really, really attached to him, and he's clearly like he's all over her, going like, "I love you, and we should be together." But he's like trying. I don't know if we can be friends, but I don't want to lose you. And
But
so on and
of
so
course,
forth.
he knows. Like what we end in the past is that obviously there's a scene that he's cheated on her,
Yeah.
but she doesn't know the whole story. But it doesn't matter; she's seen it, and you could never unsee that. And I would say the description of it made me also see it, and I cannot unsee that. Like if I go into my brain,
I see it.
my picture,
I can see this.
I see it too.
I see it really well. Like just the way they describe like his dick and stuff.
Yeah.
Like and his pants around his ankles.
exactly.
Like it's very, very visual.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is kind of, there's stuff happening after this, and I'm not spoiling this quite yet because we don't know it yet in the book, but it goes back and forth anyways. And in the present, they're spending, like, she ends up breaking up with Sean, but she hasn't told
Yeah.
Elliot yet. And then she goes to Thanksgiving at Elliot's house, and
Meets the family again.
no, not the family, his house, and it's with his friend, his Aussie friend, which honestly, that fucking Aussie accent was, it was spot on.
She's
so good.
amazing.
Erin
narrator,
Mellon,
right?
fan-fucking-tastic.
I know.
Boy, Aussie. She did both.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And he has also invited his ex to this. He didn't tell Maisie that his ex Rachel was invited, but he told his ex
What
Rachel.
an idiot, though. That was a bad. That was a dumb decision.
But he's
you just ended it with your ex because of this girl that came back in your life, and you're like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna have both of you over for Thanksgiving
but
with only one other person as a buffer.
But I mean, he says it that he didn't tell Maisie because he did not want to give her any reason to back out and not show up. But Rachel, she could come if she wanted, and she knew that Maisie was going to be there. So, anyway, but then Rachel does not deal very well with being there with this girl that her boyfriend just broke up with her over. And then she kind of gets into it with Maisie, saying that you did such a fucking number on him, and when you have the full story, you realize how stupid this is, because... Yeah,
But, like, he's fucked up because of you. You fucked him up and all this stuff.
but
You
I
have
mean-
no idea what you've done to him.
Yeah, and she ends up leaving, and they have Thanksgiving together, and then he's invited her to go to his brother's wedding.
Yeah.
And at this wedding, that's when they talk, and he tells first they sleep together, and then he says his side of the story, and as she's collecting herself, and he's basically saying that, yeah, I know you saw me cheat, but I honestly thought it was you, which is most stupid excuse ever.
I know.
I was like, I would not have forgiven. I
on.
was like, no, fuck you.
He says that I thought it was
slept-
you the whole time. I thought it was you that went down on me. I thought it was you that was
Yeah.
riding me, and that you. And then I thought to myself, okay, even if you thought that this was her, where in your like drunken sense like would piece together that this is nothing like her? Like she would never do anything like that.
He slept with her once. She was a virgin. He just took her virginity.
And now she's going to
go and riding him and giving him blowjobs as he's super fucking drunk at his friend's house with the door open.
And he's known her for years.
Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, you can be drunk, but if you're not so drunk that you can still first off get it up and actually make this happen. Yeah, but I mean, and actually notice that the door is open and all of these stuff that he says he notices, then you're not drunk enough that you can't tell the difference between two fucking girls. And then this Emma that he ends up sleeping with, he's also known her for years and years and years. So it's not like she's a fucking stranger that looks like his girlfriend. It's someone he knows. And someone who has had feelings for him before. So I think it's a bullshit excuse.
Have you ever been so drunk that you would have mistaken a person?
No. And I've never been so drunk that... No.
I have smoked weed and been drunk and have been with partner... And I knew exactly who that partner was. Yeah. Like there had never been in my life a time where
But I mean, at the end of the day too, he calls her and she says, I cannot come see you. And still in his mind, he's like, she probably came here to surprise me. And then did this. It's a bullshit thing. And the fact that he's pissed off at her for not letting him explain himself. Exactly. I was like, really? What the fuck do you have to explain?
No.
You have nothing to explain. Like, at this point, you fucked up royally and all you can do is beg for forgiveness. And she should probably not forgive you.
It's on the same day that he says, I love you and will you marry me?
Yeah. And it's like they've only slept together once. Now, I was like, if he does this drunk at a New Year's party when your relationship is so new and he just said he loves you, like, he's gonna fucking cheat on you all over the place. Like, this is not okay. I was so pissed off. Like, past this point, I left this romance. I was like, I don't want them to end up together. She should not fucking forgive him. I don't care how many feelings you have for him. He's an asshole and he does not deserve forgiveness. Fuck this shit. And I was like, it took me out of it.
Yeah,
I was, you had all the emotions and stuff after that. I had like seething, fuming anger past this point, and I could not get in.
That's going to be something deep-seated in your actual psyche.
I hate cheating. Like, I cannot. There's literally no excuse for it, ever.
No.
Like,
I just it's a thing you don't like. And also not in books, and the characters are not allowed to cheat. Not acceptable. I also hate cheating. I think that there is probably, like, there's not any good excuse ever to cheat. Just end the relationship. Yeah. And then
if you want to sleep with someone else, then you shouldn't be with the person you're with. You should just be like, hey, turns out I want to sleep with other people. We should break up.
Unless you have an open relationship, which is
then it's not cheating.
Communication. Yeah, no, exactly.
But it was bullshit. It took me out of it. But to get back to it, because you did have all of the emotions after that. I got really emotional.
I think I got angry, of course, like when he cheated on her. I've been cheated on, and I've never walked in on being cheated on. I don't think that I would be able to cope with that so well.
No.
And I feel sorry for every woman and man in the world that had to ever see that. That's awful. That's an awful visual to have to live with. So I'm sorry for that to ever happen to anybody, and especially Macy too, because it goes downhill from here. And she talks about how that night, what'd she say? Not crushed me. That
it ruined her. That's the thing. Like, because what happens is, she walks in, she sees this, she makes her way back to her vacation home. Yeah. She goes inside, she cries herself to sleep. And when she wakes up in the morning, her dad's there. Yeah. And he's like, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, what are you doing here? He's like, you never called, because she was supposed to call when she got there. So obviously he's been worried, and he's gotten in the car and he's driven up to see that she's okay. And then she's in like pieces and she's so upset, and he's like, what happened? What did he do? Did he do something? And she's like, yes. He's like, is it another girl? And she's like, yes. He's like, I didn't think that. I didn't see that one coming. And then he's like, let's just go home, we'll figure out your car, like the other car later. And they get in the car, and then on the way they're in a car crash, and her dad dies because her seat crushes his. So and then she has to deal with mourning her father. She's now an orphan, and she has to deal with her uncle and his wife, who seem to take care of her, but are not very emotionally caring and nurturing. And then she goes off to school, she makes new friends, and she's cut everything with Elliot there, because it is not just that he cheated on her. It is also that if she wouldn't have gone up there to see him, if he wouldn't have cheated, then she would have called her dad, and he wouldn't have been there, and there wouldn't have been a crash. So even if Elliot did not,
for all of things.
Obviously he didn't cause this crash, but he is the triggering point for her to even be there and for her dad to be there, and then this crash happening.
And she keeps telling him in the future, like before she tells him about her dad dying, she says, that night crushed me, and then I broke. Then I was broken. Then I was a broken human being. And like he doesn't like piece together, because he knows her dad died, but he doesn't know how. He never asked when or anything like that.
He asks when, but she doesn't answer him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything, any mutual like friends or family in common. So he also had no way of finding out what had happened like within these 11 years either, let alone finding her.
Yep.
So in this 11 years, on her side, she has dealt with literally seeing her boyfriend cheat on her after he says, I love you, I'm going to marry you.
Yeah.
And then her dad dies. And this is her last like parent, right?
Her mom was already dead at that point.
So then she had to deal with the grief and like she had to be thrown straight into adulthood at this point. Yep. She goes to school and becomes a doctor and basically shuts all her emotions off, dead to the world.
And she finds this really good new friend. What is it, Sabrina?
Yeah, no. Sabrina.
Yeah, and she's a roommate with, and she says that when the college matched them, they must have like looked, because she'd lost a brother or something like that
from a car crash.
So she understands what she's going to, and they like become really, really good friends. And Sabrina is like
honest and true friends, and helped her through everything. And then on his side, because we see only her perspective for most of the book. And if we had maybe one chapter where we got a little bit of his perspective, would have been interesting, because he's living now in his world thinking just pure guilt. Like he wakes up and sees that he's naked.
No, but
there's no girl in the room, and he doesn't know what has happened. And people tell him what happened. They tell him that she was there. He knows that she was there, and she saw what she saw. Yeah. He obviously confronts Emma also in the midst of all of this, saying like, you took advantage of me, blah, blah, blah. And so he's feeling like that he's been taken advantage of, and also now he has massive guilt for cheating on the love of his life, and she won't talk to him. And the acts that happened that night was that she gave him head and then she slept with him.
Yeah.
And so he has been so guilt-ridden now in these past 11 years that he hadn't been sexual with anybody for years and years and years. And when he was, the very first time that any girl went down on him, he broke down crying like a sobbing baby. So he has this trauma. I know.
You fucking cheating asshole. Boo-hoo fucking who.
You really hate her here. But I understand like what you're saying. There's no excuse for cheating. But when 11 years goes by and somebody is truly in that sense like completely sorry for their actions.
I love your summary of this, how you give him so much credit. This is my summary of this. Really? He cheated on her with Emma and blames it on being drunk, thinking it's Macy. And then he's surprised she ghosted him. He's all, I deserve this, and I couldn't let other people give me head. Too demanding. Then he's all like, I will listen to your side of the story. And he leaves her after fucking her in a field at the wedding. And just fucks
because
off.
She's like taking 10 breaths in order just to answer him, but he doesn't know her trauma. So he only sees his trauma, and she only sees her trauma.
But she just listened to his trauma.
This is what happens with every relationship and with everybody who doesn't communicate. You know how much I hate non-communication, and I hate it in books and I hate it in real life. I think we should all say all the things all the time, and then we would not be stressed. We would not be heartbroken. We'd just be open communication. Solved. But there is no communication from her side. She just sits still. And so he's still living in his, like, truth that it's the trauma from just cheating. So then...
But he could have fucking given her a minute to take her 10 breaths. Like, come on. Come on.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like, the way that he leaves and then he gets drunk... And I was like, I'm like, it's so shitty because he leaves her in that field after sleeping with her.
Yeah.
She's barely even
garden.
dressed.
Let's just say field. They're not
It's a fucking field.
They're in a garden.
They're in a garden. Whatever. She's not even dressed at this point, from what I understand. Like, she's clutching her clothes to her. He gets up, walks away, and decides to get drunk. Which I was like, first off, you just told her when you got super drunk, you slept with someone else. And now you're at a wedding. You just told her this. You told her, how could you do this to me? I'm traumatized and can't let people give me head anymore. You horrible woman. And then she's like, needs 10 breaths. And he's like, fuck this shit. You're not talking to me. Gets up, walks away, and decides, I'm going to get drunk. This is the best way to deal with this. And I was like, wow, no. Elliot's a fucking asshole, and he does not deserve any.
I didn't like that he asked her to leave. Like, dude, like, she says she has something more to tell you. There's more to this story. And so then from this literal point in the book, I just cried until the very end, because she goes home to the cabin, because that's the closest place to where the wedding was. She goes back into the house that she hasn't been in 11 years. No,
she went there once.
Apart for one time when she cleaned it out. And so she hasn't been there for like 11 years. And this is the place that holds the memories of her dad and the memories of their relationship. And she starts to cry. And then she sees her dad.
Yes.
And she thinks that it is him and her talking with each other. And like, I was like, just tears just stream down my face. Like, could you imagine losing somebody? Or we've lost people. You've lost your grandparents recently also. Yeah. If you were in like a really traumatized like moment where you're crying, and then you hear them and you feel them around you. And I just was like, I was in the moment there. I was really feeling myself be her and have my grandfather come beside me and talk to me through my sadness.
When I had my Reiki treatment with your mom, I felt like I felt my grandma's hands on me.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps through my whole body.
No, I felt like my grandfather and my grandmother was there. Like it felt like it. It felt like all the sunlight coming in was like them and their warm embrace. It was beautiful.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
it was like tears just running out of my eyes.
Oh
like
my
sleepy
gosh.
eyes, and I was like.
So that's the feeling that I had also in this moment in this book. I was there with her. I was there with you. We were feeling our lost loved ones.
I was like, fuck Elliot.
You were just in a rage. But I was having
because
all the
it
emotions.
is not her father who's there. It is Elliot who is there.
Yeah. So he's there and he's holding her and he's like, where did you go? And you're like, mine there. And then she tells him that my dad died that next day because he had to come and get me because I was so distraught from seeing you naked with Emma. And then like a real adult, and I have to say I side with her on this. She says like, in perspective of losing my dad versus seeing you naked with Emma, I don't give a shit about you naked with Emma in this moment. I hated you forever because I blamed you for the fact that my dad had to come and get me. And my dad died because he had to come and get me because you were naked with Emma. So it was like the naked with Emma situation was a super small drop in the water, and then the ocean fucking parted and my world collapsed. And then he's like, fuck.
Yeah, maybe should have let you take those fucking 10 breaths and not been an asshole and asked you to leave my brother's wedding.
Yeah.
You know.
And he says
you,
something
Elliot.
there also.
Fuck you, Elliot.
No, you can't hate him anymore. He's
I do. I hate him.
But he made this one
himself.
mistake. And then he like repented and was guilt-ridden for his rest of these 11 years.
Don't care.
He's only had one girlfriend the entire time.
Yeah,
no.
who he dumps. Like fucking this as soon as he sees Maisie.
Because he
Immediately. Yeah, and then he's like, I won't listen to her. I'm going to get drunk anyways, and then maybe sleep with one of these other wedding guest parties. No.
I also have perspective. Like, when we lost my sister's daughter, as she was stillborn, there was a lot of things before that made me angry. There was a lot of things that I would, like, be testy of and angry about, even with my exes, too. And after that happened, none of that shit mattered to me anymore. It was like, oh yeah, I had an ex that ended up having a baby with somebody else. Like, I don't give a shit about it. But I honestly I would probably not get back together with that ex at this point.
But that's the thing. But like, I think there's one thing of saying, okay, you did this, it was a mistake, I understand, you're sorry for it.
Yeah.
and I will forgive you. But I think getting back together, I think this is the part that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because this whole novel and this whole story is basically about these people that are so deeply in love, because they are.
Yeah.
Elliot and Macy are so, like, they keep saying you're my person, and I mean I love that.
Yeah,
they're all like you're my person and all of this and that.
Relationship. I felt it the whole way.
But it is based on, like, he's made this huge mistake and we're just supposed to forgive it because they're supposed to be together. And I don't like that. Like, I would have said, fine, forgive him, it's fine, you can move on. But to say he's the one and only, I don't know.
I think it's fine because 11 years have passed. They've become grown-up people and been through other things.
Which means they should have probably fucking outgrown each other at that point, because you're not the same as you are.
You are not the same. No, you're right. But if there is this, like, deep connection with another person, it's not going to go away, no matter how many fucked up things you do with each other.
Yeah.
And then you, of course, have to go to therapy and deal with your own shit and then see if you guys still work out together. But they had 11 years of all of that self-work. And then when they see each other again, that relationship and emotion is still there. So you can't really ignore that. You can forgive this one fucked up teenage drunken New Year's Eve night.
No.
And move forward and see. Yes, no, you can. Like, you literally can. You absolutely can.
I think you're wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. I am not. You can forgive it. There is forgiveness in this world. And I fully stand behind their relationship. But what I didn't like was that there was this, like, big reveal, so many emotions, and then they get together and then they move in together within, like, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Of the narration.
Mm-hmm.
So everything happened very fast, and you're, like, hit with these waves of, like, trauma from their trauma, and then just poof.
In all honesty, I think I would have probably liked this book better if we would have had a big reveal somewhere in the middle. And then had the rest of the book of them working through what this actually means for them and how they can move past this in a way together. Because then I could have maybe gone on the journey of her forgiving him for it instead of... Because the thing is that we get before the 11 years and we get now, we don't get any of her journey of coping and dealing and moving on.
You're right.
And I think I would have needed that to get behind the relationship again, because for me it went too much from the immediate trauma to flashing back to present, and then finding out, like, yeah, he cheated, her dad died, but now we forgive him. And it was too big of a leap for me.
Okay. So there was not enough time to forgive him for you.
I wouldn't have forgiven him. But I think we're going to end this with saying that I am not a forgiving person. I will hold grudges forever.
Oh, healthy. Healthy.
like back to Reiki, when your mom's like, let go of this anger. I'm like, no. I'm not done with it yet.
That suggestion and immediately ignore it.
Reject it. I will reject it. No, I'm not done with this anger yet. I will not give it up.
That's
Don't tell me what to do later.
My mother too.
Anyways,
you've been mothered.
I mean, it was a good book. I really, really enjoyed it. I did not want to read it based on the description. I was like, snore, don't like this shit. But once I started listening, I could not put it down. Like, I wanted to finish it, and then it was like, yes, I want to know what's going to happen. Yeah. Which most of the books I listen to these days, I find myself being, oh God, 2 fucking hours left. Time,
I know.
Kill
True,
me now.
True.
But not with this one. I was like, yes, I want to hear it. What? It's already over? No.
I know. I thought it ended. It was very fast ending. Of course, it ended with the words of the love and other words and what's your favorite word, and the favorite word was you. And I thought, very sweet ending. I didn't mind it ending abruptly on that note either. But with back and forth in time books, I feel like we're always more in the past than we are in the future.
Because the falling in love happens in the past, and this is the romance part.
So I would have liked more of what happens after the big reveal.
Honestly, what would have been interesting, I think, with this book in a way, would have been to start it 11 years, and like at 13, gone up to this
Trauma point at 18.
and then jumped 11 years in the future and just done like the continuation, like the present, like at the end of the book, and then, or even maybe start a few years before and like working through this
instead of going back and forth.
Yeah,
I didn't mind the back and forth.
I think it would have been interesting. Anyways, we're not going to rewrite this book. We're just going to
I enjoyed it.
I did recommend
I gave it 5 stars. I would highly recommend it. And I read a lot of romance books, and this one was one of the top.
I think I gave it 4 or 5. Yeah.
You're critical.
I'm a bit of a critic. I think it was because I got so pissed off at Elliot, and I was all like fuming at him, which...
Because you don't like cheating. So note to self, no cheating books. And I cried immensely over the car crash death. And I cried in Evelyn Hugo at the car crash death. So that's going to be one of my traits. We're not going to read any car crash death books.
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. That's true.
But I would highly recommend it. And if we didn't spoil all of the parts of the book currently.
Oh, we did spoil all of it.
Read it anyways. It's totally worth it.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.